Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the CSH. My name is Laurence Gauthier. I'm a historian based here. And this evening, we are very happy to welcome you all for this talk by Professor Odile Henry for a talk entitled, What Does My IITian Tag Actually Mean? The Relationship Between Academic Titles and Job Positions. So I'll give a short presentation before of both the presenter and the discussant before we actually start the presentation. Odile Henry is director of the CSH and professor of sociology at Paris 8 University in Paris. Her early research work explored the world of large consulting firms in France from a sociological and ethnographic perspectives. Her first monograph, which was published in French in 2012 by the CNRS, traced the historical origins of consulting positions in the late 19th century. Through this lens, she explored more largely the history of France's large firms during the second industrialization, as well as the history of engineers and French-style management. Professor Henry later pursued similar lines of inquiry in a new context, that of post-colonial India. In 2014, she joined the ENGID research program, which is a research program on engineers and society in colonial and post-colonial India, funded by the French National Research Agency, which brought together Indian and French sociologists and historians. As part of this project, she conducted extensive fieldwork at IIT Kanpur. Her publications with Mathieu Ferry examine the processes of elimination and differentiation among IIT students based on their caste and gender, both during their studies and upon entry into the labor market. Today's presentation will be based on this work. Since 2018, Professor Henry is also a member of the SP project, which is a research project funded by the French Development Agency, the AFD, which explores the impact of the fast development of private higher education in 7 developing countries, including India. And Professor Henry is in charge of analyzing the transformations of India's higher education institutions, particularly in terms of social inequalities. Besides her ongoing work on India's higher education system, Professor Henry also plans to set up new surveys on the trajectories of engineers from Indian and French elite universities who have left the world of large private capitalist firms to invent alternative paths, most often in connection with environmental issues. Her discussant this evening is Professor N. Sukumar, who is Professor of Political Science at the University of Delhi. Professor Sukumar completed his studies from the University of Hyderabad. He joined the University of Delhi in 2001. He also was offered a professorship in Ambedkar Chair of Social Work at the National Institute of Social Work and Social Sciences in 2012, and a professorship in Ambedkar Chair Tezpur Central University in Assam more recently. His research work examines caste discrimination and Dalit mobilization. He recently published a monograph entitled Caste Discrimination and Exclusion in Indian Universities, A Critical Reflection, which was published in 2022 by Routledge. So this is, of course, particularly appropriate for tonight's. He also published 2 Homeland, and all of them were published by Routledge. In 2023, he was also the chairperson for the External Fact-Finding Committee on Caste Discrimination at IIT Delhi. Once again, something extremely useful for tonight's discussion. So he's particularly well informed about the issues that Professor Henry will explore in her paper this evening. This paper, as I mentioned it briefly just a few minutes ago, was prepared in collaboration with Mathieu Ferry, who is now maître de conférence at the University of Versailles-Saint-Quentin. Thank you for joining us this evening. And now I will let Professor Henry present her work before Professor Sukumar will discuss her paper, and then we will open the floor to questions. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for coming first, and sorry for my very bad English accent. I hope you will follow. So in introduction, I will try to present to you the main results of a research I conducted with my colleague Mathieu Ferry at IIT Kanpur between December 2014 and December 2015. I carried out this long field work, 11 stays of about 10 days each, during which I conducted 62 interviews with teachers, students, and some former alumni students. With Mathieu Ferry, we collected figures produced by the institution in order to trace the pathway of students according to their admission status from the initial phase of the competitive examination, the JEE, to their insertion into the job market. Yes, so this is some picture of IIT Kanpur. And, sorry, it doesn't work. How to go to the next? Oh, okay. So yes, the program called Engine was a 3 years research program. Yeah, but Engine, you can have also the link to the website that is always active. So it is, the program was called Engine, and this three years research program was funded by the CNRS. So so some publication has been launched, like another yes. So the last one is planned to come in 2024. It is a book that should be published by Oxford University Press, but we are waiting for this publication. So today I tried to present the main result of the first survey that has been published in 2017, but also to give some result of the last survey that will be published in 2024. If you are interested to get the article and the chapter, I can also send it to those who are interested. So before presenting the main result of the work, I would like to say a word about the history of this research, the theoretical framework, and the statistical data we have produced from the raw data provided by the administration of IIT Kanpur. So my first point, the history of the research. So when I arrived in India in September 2014, I had never worked on this country before. My previous research focused on the history from the late 19th century to the 60s on consultancy firms in France with an interest for US, Germany, and UK. My previous work led me to retrace the history of engineers in France, which is why Roland Lardinois and then Vanessa Caroux asked me to join the Engine project. As a sociologist by training, I have always favored a detailed study of individual career paths, which I relate to the historical context in which they took place. Being fairly ignorant of the social, economic, and political history of India, it was difficult for me to follow this method. That is why I turned to the construction of statistical data, which is easier to interpret. I didn't abandon on-site observation, interview, and group meeting, of course. I end up at IIT Kanpur somewhat by chance. A friend of a friend has a friend who is a professor of sociology at this institution and who seemed very happy to welcome me, probably because I was helping to increase the number of foreign professors visiting this institution. I must stress that until Rohit Vermula's suicide in January 2016, I was able to obtain all the data I wanted. It was sometimes laborious, but the idea was the IIT is a liberal institution with nothing to hide. And above all, that is in this meritocratic space, caste no longer exists. The facts constantly contradicted this assertion, and the young ST doctoral student from the Meghalaya who had been appointed to accompany me everywhere was a striking example of the discrimination at work in this institution. When it became clear following Rohit Vermula's suicide that the issue of caste discrimination within IIT, an issue that I have been working on from the outset, but very discreetly, was central to my work, I was not longer allowed to stay on the campus. I continued to conduct this research outside of the institution. I would like to thank Surinder Jotka, Jules Naudet, and Satish Deshpande, all of three of whom encouraged me to further explore this issue. Now, the theoretical framework. So the initial question was as follows. To what extent do the IITs contribute to a relative opening up of the Indian elite, for example, by facilitating access to this elite for population dominated by caste, religion, or gender? Are previously marginalized social groups gaining ground in these elite schools, or are the position of power held by members of the old elite being reinforced? So it was really the two questions with which I started the research. So I found the work of Pierre Bourdieu particularly useful, especially the way in which he questions the meritocratic ideology. I am not going to quote them all, but I would like to mention a fairly old article written by with Luc Boltanski, which I still find particularly heuristic today, insofar as it analyzes the relationship between educational qualification, academic titles, and position on the labor market, jobs. Satish Deshpande work, which is very compatible with the theoretical framework forged by Pierre Bourdieu, has been a great help to me. Carrying out the sociogenesis of the notion of meritocracy in India, this work shows how from the 30s onward, a new norm, castelessness, emerged, and with the implementation of reservation policies was practically embodied in the so-called general category. At the end of this long process, the collective identity of general was marked by acquired qualifications to the detriment of caste, which has become invisible, while the collective identity of low castes remained above all marked by caste, which has become hyper visible to the detriment of acquired qualifications. The research carried out by Ajanta Subramanian highlights the important role played by IITs in this process of converting inherited caste capital into acquired modernity capital. However, based almost entirely on discourse analysis, official speeches, interviews, I mean on representations of the world, this analysis takes little account of the objective reality of practices that statistical processing may reveal. Finally, when it comes to analyzing castes, the theoretical model developed by Norbert Elias seems to me to be very highly relevant. I confess, I don't understand why the studies carried out on caste in India has not made greater use of it. Elias offers a highly refined analysis of the construction of collective identities based on the model of the minority of the best or the minority of the worst, and highlights the specific constraints that weigh on each of the two groups. Now, the last point of my introduction, statistical data. These are dependent of the administrative categories. That means the groups defined by the government according to their admission status. The general category, the Jain, the SC, the ST, and the OBC categories. At the time of the survey, reserved places, reserved seats constituted 49.5% of the seats offered in public higher education. Also, faculty, administration, or students loudly assert that caste discrimination do not exist on the campus. Admission status
I am with you, Gaurav.
The data provided by the administration. This calls for two remarks. One, focusing on admission status avoids questioning the underrepresentation in IIT of other dominated categories who are excluded from the reservation policy, such as girls, members of religious minority, especially Muslim. This is an important bias in our survey. Two, these administrative categories are often very opaque. Therefore, we develop a questionnaire that would have allowed us to develop an intersectional approach, crossing caste, class, religion, and gender. We wanted to distribute this questionnaire to a whole batch, but we were not allowed to do so. We had to make do with these administrative categories considered as a raw indicator of caste. So I will, no, is it? Yeah, I will now elaborate on this finding by focusing on 4 main points. So the assignment of identity, continuous elimination and differential chances of success, the differential return on educational qualification, and the recruitment space. I'm not sure that I will be able to go till the end, but I will do my best because it is a bit long. So the first point, a segment of identity. The institution construct official categories and ranking that have far-reaching consequences because they modify the perception of other and of oneself. While a strictly meritocratic model would construct groups based solely on academic achievement, the prevailing ranking at IIT are those that define students according to their admission status, Gen, OBC, SC, ST. It is often assumed that students from the reserved categories would have all benefited from a discounted competition. However, we had access to the data from the JEE Advance 2011, and we found that 59% of OBC, 6% of SC, and 5% of ST scored above the cutoff and therefore qualified on the common merit list. However, all students from this group are admitted to the places reserved for their category. A 1992 Supreme Court judgment held that it was illegal to exclude students from the reserved category from the reserved category to exclude them from the common merit list. So because the common merit list effectively reserved the general list for the high caste students. But this provision has been and remains a practice largely ignored. Admission status as a constructed category tend to group together populations of students with different academic performance. Such institutional logics, which create homogeneous groups under the sole aspect of admission status, have obvious consequences in terms of identity marking. As Satish Deshpande and Anjanta Subramanian have shown before me, students from the reserved groups remain defined by caste regardless of their academic performance, while upper caste students are defined by merit. In other words, while the reservation policy claims to combat the effect of discrimination, it tends to reify the lower social status of the stigmatized groups. And it is not secret that these rankings are known to everyone on the campus and are sometimes even made public. So, yes, I forgot, but so now I'm moving to my second point, continuous elimination and differential chances of success. While reservation allows some students from marginalized group to break through the barrier of entry to IIT, they do not eliminate the risk of failure during the course of training. Some finding: the failure and dropout rate and the repetition rate in BTech is much higher for SC and ST students than from Gen and OBC. I give some figure, no? So you can see the difference between rate of repeat and rate of fail or dropout. Second point, the analysis of the distribution of the cumulative performance index So it is an academic score which is recalculated every semester. So, and when you talk to a student, immediately will tell you what is his CPI. So the distribution of the CPI according to administrators reinforces this result. The academic success of SC and ST students is generally lower than that of Gen and OBC students. So you have the first curve is the dark one is general student, and on the axis it is a marks from 0 to 10. So you see the last one is ST, then ST and OBC. One is not very visible. I think it is a problem of, yeah, one is very, yeah, one is not visible. So this one is SC, and OBC and Gen are very similar. But you have a first one who is more on the left with those of ST. Okay, so the lower academic success of SC and ST students reflects the social and academic inequality at the outset, but also the lack of institutional initiatives to correct them. The interview conducted show that SC and ST students who had difficulties at school most often belonged to poorly educated and poor families, mainly belonging to the small peasantry, and were the first generation to access higher education. Most of them do not have the tools for memorizing and working quickly, nor are they accustomed to the stressful condition, competition, and constant evaluation in which the training is carried out. The testimonies relating to social life on campus, particularly in terms of cultural and sporting practices, show that students are grouped according to caste and class. The students are divided into two main groups: the Gen group, the upper caste group, in which some OBC, SC, ST are integrated, brings together, I quote, those who come from the city and share a certain number of the dominant social properties. They speak English well, they know how to organize shows, they have oratorical talents and an affinity for literary matters. The SC and ST group, on the other hand, is made up of students from rural areas with little interest in leisure activities, poor English language skill, and low academic achievement. This aggregation and segregation logic contribute to a very strong isolation of the most academically fragile student and lock them into a logic of failure. Sorry. Okay, so no, we are not at this point. Sorry. So faced with this inequality at the outset, it is clear that the institution is reluctant to take any initiative. We can mention first, lack of measures that will give students real means of progressing. Second, the dysfunction of the ST office, a support structure that exists only on paper. Third, cases of discrimination against SC and ST students by professors or senior students in charge of tutoring. Four, reservation quota for teachers are not respected. A survey conducted in 2019 in IIT Kanpur confirms the latter finding. Out of 394 teachers, only 4 are from scheduled caste. Our field observation point in the same direction. The teachers most involved in the development of support schemes for the most vulnerable students are more often women close to the politically left and relatively old, while the number of students almost doubled between 2004 and 2010 with the introduction of the quota for OBCs. The number of English support classes remained stable due to a lack of volunteers to take them on. Finally, out of 83 student suicides recorded in IITs between 1983 and 2015, IIT Kanpur recorded 20, ranking this institution at the top. According to Anup Kumar, 80% of the suicides were committed by SC students, or SC and ST students, sorry. In view of such risks, the institution has strengthened the counseling service. However, we found that students from reserved groups didn't attend this service unless there was a major pressure from the administration. The counseling service tends to function as a moral re-education enterprise that maintains a negative self-perception in terms of lack of skills or disabilities of marginalized students. So, and I can add that the counseling service is made of psychologists, but in fact, it is not really skilled psychologists because most of them are the wife of the teacher. So it is not really, okay. So I'm going to my next point, the differential return on educational qualification. If students from marginalized groups are at high risk of failure, elimination, discouragement, what about those who manage to graduate? Do they get jobs and salary comparable to those of other students? So the enrollment rate at the student placement office, the SPO, provide a first indication. So I think, so it is all the points that I will talk about, but yeah. So, I let you look at the figure, but half of SC/ST students do not use the SPO, which is considered one of the privileges of being an IITian. It is true that many of them turn to competitive examinations in public administrations, which are also subject to reservation policy. But given their academic performance, they also anticipate their low chances of accessing these jobs and exclude themselves from the SPO offers. Student placement office. And when they register with the SPO, students do not have the same chances of being recruited. 90% of the general upper class students registered with the SPO found a job, compared to 77% of FBC, but only 68% of SC and 46% of ST. However, we assert the chances of getting a job through the SPO at the same level of academic achievement. So this is Matthew. We do this logistic regression. So, and we found that at equal grade level, high caste students have a higher probability of getting a job than OBC, SC, and ST. So it is the same. We don't see very well the 3, the 4. So you see the chances to get a job. So the first one is Gen, and you see that equal chances. There is a last one, we don't see it, it's very, very steep. Yeah, but you see at equal academic performance, the difference of chances to get a job, it is very clear in this figure. Okay. Okay, so at the same grade level, the probability of getting a salary of more than 11 lakh a year, rather than less than 6.5 lakhs a year, decreases by 20% for OBC, 22% for SC, and 30% for ST, compared to general upper class student. So I think, the meritocratic principle linking academic success to professional success is clearly undermined, with students from reserved groups being disadvantaged, even when their academic performance is equal to that of others. Social mobility through the educational education with the quota policy, which the quota policy favors, reach one of its limits here. At the end of the IIT, it is a logic of the private sector which ignores the reservation policy that prevails. However, it would be to forget that the specific functioning of the institution is closely adjusted to the demands of the private sector and actively contributes to the unequal return on degree. For example, we found that the extracurricular activities offered by IIT are considered by potential employer as indicator of dynamism, competitive spirit, ability to present and promote oneself. However, SC and ST students very often mention the fact that they did not participate in extracurricular activities. Some of them are officially excluded because of their low academic performance. Others abstain for different reasons: lack of familiarity with the dominant culture, focus on schoolwork, and underestimation of the importance of this extracurricular activity on the valorization of the degree. Or they refuse to occupy a subordinate position once again by participating in activities whose leaders are chosen among the best students and all belong to the upper caste. So I am now moving to the last point. Okay, I give you one. So this is a picture who has circulated on Facebook and who has been forwarded to me by a ST student. It is a common perception of these 4 categories of students. So you can see that SC and ST are sleeping, while the OBC is trying to work without any books, but the upper caste student has a huge amount of books and is only studying. Okay. So the last part will be a little bit more difficult to present because it is not published. Yes, it is the chapter I am waiting to be published in Oxford University Press. But I try to give you the main line of the result of this work. So the recruitment space. Our studies have established that despite identical academic achievement, upper caste students have higher probabilities than SC and ST students of finding employment and earning a salary above 11 lakhs a year. But this type of job to which each category can reasonably aspire has yet to be examined. The systematic analysis of the relation between the formal academic title and occupational hierarchy offers a new angle on the central question of merit and caste. In this last point, I propose to examine how caste plays differentially in the production of the value of the degree. In addition to caste, academic achievement, I mean average marks obtained, and stream coming from one on the top department or from a bottom department. The hierarchy has been hierarchy that the JE, the General Competitive Examination, is designing, also play a part in this process of valuing the degree. So, where is the, I think, yeah, you have the top department, computer science, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and the bottom department, mathematics, biological science, economics, material and metallurgical engineering, chemistry. So how we decide the top and the bottom department, it is just because we get access to the JEE, and for IIT Kanpur, we look at the mark of the student from each stream. So it is very clear that the best student will choose these three first departments, and the student with the lower marks will go to the other one. So it is why we have decided. They have a BTech in it. They have a BSc in economics. Yeah.
We might need to add artificial intelligence in our.
No, it didn't exist. Yeah, it didn't exist at this time. Yes. So, no, yeah. For IIT Kanpur. It is not for whole IITs. It is for IIT Kanpur. We got the access to the data. So, sorry. So data and treatment. So we access to the data of the placement service office, student placement office, and for the year of 2015. And this data enable us to analyze the position occupied when leaving when they left the IIT. There is very few study devoted to IIT graduates entry in the job market, and the very few study they tried to rank the position they obtain on the job market according to the sole criterion of salary. To avoid such a simplistic approach based on an assumption of unidimensional stratification, we have sought to reconstruct in detail the complex multidimensional space of professional positions occupied upon graduating from IITK. This enables us to conduct a close analysis of a specific portion of the Indian economic field, namely employers of recent graduates from one particular institution in one particular year, 2015. So, no, sorry, I go back. So, in fact, you see, this year it was 1,892 students, UG and PG, registered with SPO. Out of them, only 902 students got a job. It is 82%. It is not 100%. This is also important to stress. And we got the completed data for only 858 students having secured a job in one of 192 companies. So we try to construct the space of placement of this 8057 position in 2015. So we try to design the recruitment space by using two statistical methods. So my colleague Mathieu is very expert in this method. So the multiple correspondent analysis, the MCA, and the hierarchical cluster analysis, the HCA, who help us to identify 5 poles of recruitment. So we try to collect the property of the 1,092 companies according to 6 variables. So you have the variable on the 6 variables are on the slide, and these variables were collected and systematically based on research that we conducted primarily on the internet. I have a long list of the different places where we were able to get access to this, to collect this information. We got information about the job profiles given by the SPO, but these data are to be taken with caution. The SPO has created 4 slabs of salary. So I think, yes, 4 slabs of salary. And they have coded job titles, engineer, software engineer, and so on. But we don't know if it is the result of the work of SPO or if it is the information given by the enterprise. We are not able to. So we try to take it with caution. And no, sorry. Sorry. And after having designed this space of recruitment, we have projected on this recruitment space the social characteristic of the students. I mean, the admission status, the academic achievement, and the stream, bottom or top department. So, Laurence, you tell me if I am 5 minutes. Yes, it will be difficult, but okay. The recruitment space revealed by our study has specific boundaries coinciding with the private organized branch of the Indian economy. So this, yes, this is how the title of the job is distributed over this 857 position that has been filled. So you see engineer, software engineer, I'm sorry, analyst. Analyst is very, very, very huge. And I wanted to give you also, this is a salary. So, you know, IITian are always described in the newspaper as some guy who are earning a lot of money and very rich. And but you see, the salary C, that is really average, is the most important category out of this 857 position. Oops, sorry. So, and this is a student social characteristics that we projected on the space. So you have also an idea of the company and the sector of activities. So I can focus. I can sorry. Say that the weight of the service sector is huge. It is 55% of the recruitment who fall within, and it is business services, consulting, software product and IIT industry, online services, mass media and advertising, consumer retail, logistics. So if we include in this category banking and finance, it is 67% of the recruitment in this sector, economic sector. This is the most important, really. So you have two, sorry, we don't see very well, but in gray, it is the percentage of students who has been recruited in this sector in gray, so 13%, and in black, it is a percentage of company that belong to this sector, 15%, sector by sector. Okay, so now, so this is a factor multidimensional correspondence analysis. So I'm sorry, it is too small, and I don't have time to really present this analysis, but I can say that the first axis, horizontal axis, is interpreted as representing the size of the company, with stock market presence and geographical presence being the most contributing variables. Multinational companies are on the far left and are opposed to small Indian company and startup on the right. So this is a horizontal axis. The second axis structures the company according to the amount of time they have been present in India, which correspond overall to the age of the area of activities. Towards the bottom of this axis are companies with the most recent presence in India, post-2009, many of which originated from the States. Towards the top are Indian conglomerates related to family capitalism and created before 1948 or between 48 and 80s. So the hierarchical cluster analysis now make it possible to synthesize the social space that emerged from this analysis by grouping the recruited students according to the characteristics of the company and positions. These 5 recruitment pools also correspond to distinct distribution of salary level. So we have, sorry, I follow here. So we have on the left, we have the multinational. So this is this. I don't have anything to, but this one. Okay, multinational is the first cluster, representing 40% of the recruitment, is the larger numerically and is clearly situated on the left of the first axis. It groups together multinational companies listed on the stock market, which are frequently American, European, Asian, and arrive in India in the 90s and in the 2000s. These companies are primarily invested in finance, computing, electronics. They frequently recruit engineers. So Indian conglomerate is the blue one on the top. So the second cluster, 15% of the recruitment situated towards the top and mainly on the left, represents the Indian conglomerate, sometimes exclusively involved in heavy industry. These companies are listed on the stock market and are the oldest company in our sample. They also recruit engineers. So now consultancy firm. So on the bottom, but we don't see very well because it is there is a fourth one on the bottom. The third cluster, 80% of recruitment, is located at the bottom of the space. It is composed of consultancy firms, and it is 90% of the consultancy firms that fall in this cluster, and 80% of these firms are from US. These companies have a dual geographic presence. So they are Indian and US, and most of them have been founded or co-founded by IITian. I mean, the presence of IITian is very important in this cluster. So they don't recruit engineers, they recruit analysts, and they are established in India from the 90s. And the last one, the green one on the right, is a startup and very recently created small Indian companies. So it is 21% of the recruitment, and it is at the right of the state and contains Indian startup, often created also by IIT alumni and only present in India. These companies are focused on online services, consumer services, mass media, etc. So this cluster doesn't recruit engineer, doesn't recruit analysts, recruit only manager. And okay, and there is a last one, a small one at the top on the right, but it is coaching center and university, but the number was too small that we decided not to study specifically this one. 2 minutes. So yes, wow. So I just so yes, this is very interesting because you have an idea about the salary. So the purple is the lowest salary. So you see that it is Indian conglomerate who gave the most lower salary. And if you compare to multinational, you will see that multinational give, in fact, a very high salary, A and B. But you can see that Indian startup also give a very good salary. Even if they don't give A salary, they give a lot of B salary. That is not so bad. So you can see that the most attractive sectors for the student of IIT are the multinational in one side and the Indian startup on the other. So going to the consulting or to the Indian conglomerate, as if I have time, I can present to us, is a second choice solution. So for those who doesn't have a lot of, who doesn't have high mark. So this is the best one, but it is really small. So you have the status So on the general is brown, OBC is yellow, and blue clear is SC, and blue dark is ST. And you have bottom department and top department and bottom department. I have no time to explain. I can do it later another day, but you see the multinational that the hierarchy of caste is fully respected. You are coming from the bottom department or you are coming from the top department, more general student will be recruited. And but it is interesting. I try to go very quickly for the end. It is interesting because there is some studies on reservation policies that stated that SC/ST students won't go, should not go to top department because they are not good enough to go to the top department. But what we have showed is when you are SC/ST student from a top department, you will have more chances to, if you have good achievement, of course, you will be protected. And the discrimination of caste is less from the student belonging to the top department. So I completely disagree with the study which says that SC/ST students should not go to computer science or to electrical science, engineering, and so on. No, in fact, the top department will give them a protection against discrimination. So I don't have time to finish. No, what I can say also about, I say very quickly the differences. So for the startup, it is in fact yes, you will see an overrepresentation of SC Dalit in the startup. That I am not able to interpret so much, but I have many hypotheses. The fact that the Bhopal conference has indicated that entrepreneurship should be the way for the Dalit. The fact that the public services are reducing and there is no more seats, I mean, inside, so they have to turn to the private sector. The fact also that in IIT you have alumni, Dalit alumni, and some of them, they started to startup. So it is easier to be recruited when you have alumni who have, and it is in the startup pool or segment that the weight of alumni is the most important. So I have many hypotheses. I think there is no study who has been done on this subject of insertion of IITian. All study I have found, it was on Dalit, but it was your study about the many issues they face to be an entrepreneur, but it was also a study conducted by Barbara Harris-White on globalization, neoliberalization, and how the Dalit as the condition of work of Dalits are worse and worse with this neoliberalization. But it is for people who don't have any degree. I mean, it is, I mean, I don't know if you know other studies that can help me to do better interpretation of that. I will be very happy because I didn't find a single one. So I would like to underscore also the fact that if you see at Indian conglomerate, you will see that ST, Adivasi students are overrepresented. Coming from bottom or top department doesn't make any difference. Why? It is a sector where the academic achievement is not recognized. It was a family capitalism and nobody wants to go there. So I think because also Adivasi are not, don't have the reputation of being, you know, going to on strike, going to union, to trade union, they are seen like more docile person, but, and also maybe because they don't have choice, I mean, only to go there. And the third one, consulting is very interesting because you see that when you come from a bottom department, your chances to join this sector are higher. And in fact, it is interesting because you see that OBC are overrepresented in this consulting sector. And it is not, this sector doesn't give good salary, but it gives you maybe a status and maybe a promises of a better future. So it is interesting because you can see also for consulting that it is not the best student who are going there. It is more the student with low marks, and it is a student, OBC student, who are able to manipulate a little bit achievement and placement. Who have this, yeah. Huh? No, it is only private. It is only private. No, because the SPO gives you only data on the private sector. So I'm sorry I've been too long, but thank you for your attention.
Now we will hear the comments by Professor Ensukumar.
Summing up, yeah, such a vast study within 10 minutes is really challenging. Thank you. What else you need to prove that caste exists in these institutions? The data proved, and how the entire hierarchy, what operates outside the institutions, which reflects in the institutions. It from the day the student enters into the campuses through their entrances, JEE ranking and other things, and followed up with dropouts and many other things, which has been meticulously mapped. Thanks to the institute and the center at Odile particularly, and I have Jodka here who suggested me for my book about how to go about a couple of examples I would like to start. That when I was part of Delhi, IIT Delhi, some fact finding on not exactly the students and the faculty, but it is between the administration and the non-teaching staff. I don't want to get into the detail, but the fact of the matter was very shocking that the second in the hierarchy of IITs, the second rank administrative official confesses that we doesn't know and we don't care about the SC/ST Atrocities Act. When we asked that, do you know that there is an act that you are punishable under that act when you deny certain provisions to these communities? And one professor who I really don't want to name said that even still in IIT Delhi, there are certain faculties who asks their rank in the first day of the classroom itself, interaction itself. So you have to introduce with your rank so that you are clear-cutly, this rank reflects your academic standards, again merit and other things which has been already discussed. Then interestingly, when there are many things like that, and when I was much recently, couple of months before, I was in IIT Roorkee. I went there to deliver a lecture. One student who came to me after the lecture, and he said, sir, he is from sociology, social science discipline, and the professor blatantly says that, look, I haven't took you for the sake of supervising you. It is your headache. You have to deal with your academics. You have to deal with your chapters, and you just and you don't know how to write English. I mean, how to present your chapters. So therefore, you please don't show your face to me. So what is that this boy is supposed to do? So such kind of blatant kind of violations that still happens, even though they know that it is, of course, we don't know whether it is real, how, to what extent this is punishable, because these are all public institutions. So with these two, examples, one can see that how these academic spaces are hierarchically structured. And from 1970s, from Suma Chitni's work, IIT Bombay till Odile's work, I think this is much more in detail, nuanced in comparison with Ajanta Subramanian's work. And whereas, when the candidates or maybe the students gets in through reservations, and then they're forced to do that. And 2008 OBC reservations increased the classroom. Therefore, there is a imbalance between the classroom composition. And of course, faculties are, even in IIT Delhi, still only 16 scheduled caste faculties are there, even till today, not even much more. So every time you advertise, so the last point which you said that, who represents, these communities at the institutional level is a blatant failure. And they are not there at the decision-making level. So therefore, you don't have any deans of such kind of background. So at decision-making level, some kind of justice can be done to these students. Anyway, so then after that, how once if they enter into these institutions, now you can't say no to reservations. And now once if they come into the institutions, then you are trying to figure out how to eliminate them, how to discourage them, and how to make them completely demoralized. So therefore, what your study, I just want to directly go to the data which you have, from 2004 to 2010, data which you chose is a very significant thing. Whereas, there is a correlation between the cumulative performance index and academic score updated every semester. On the basis of the marks obtained since the beginning of the course, job placements are decided. In fact, in this study, you mentioned that Tata Consultancy Services, they recruit people, those who are continuously passing in their academic journey. So if there is any kind of repetition or dropout, so certain companies, they don't prefer. So therefore, you are predetermining that, okay, whether you would like, where are you? You are eligible to apply or not. So your last thing which says that, where do they stand? Whether they stand, whether they're eligible to apply or not, whether they can be consultant or not, at multinational company as an engineer or whatever it may be. So the grading, all these things, there is a correlation between that. And then position occupied, economic sector, and a salary also. The range of salaries. Of course, from 25 lakhs to the minimum academic, poor fellow, poor chap goes and teaches in some engineering college. They get, 10 to 12,000, not even more than that, 10,000, not more than that. Then another interesting point in your study, which I found, is that more interestingly, even in my study also, what I have seen in university spaces, the students who come from this reserved background, they're opting for social sciences. We're here also, economics, sociology, political science, that lead to professions related to analysis of society with a perspective of social reform, particularly in terms of education, and of course you have given, how girls are preferring certain disciplines like electrical, electronic, communication, disciplines like that, mechanical, aerospaces, something like that. But what is interesting is that the results both support and confirm the earlier commentaries of SC/ST students' failures at IITs. I don't want to give the data which you have already given. So therefore, your study asserts that academic success is overall lower for SC/STs, and then it is for general and the OBCs, which has been proved through a very substantial data, and also the testimonies. The interesting part of your work is you brought certain testimonies of the students. How do they feel? How do they experience when they, suppose, for example, as you rightly said that, what do they do? The cultural capital, or, how do they engage with other extracurricular activities? Continuous assessment. Suppose if I don't know the language, I don't know, the etiquities of, mingling into the system or the institution. Frankly speaking, let me confess that when I entered into IIT campus as a first generation Dalit who got into the university space, I myself felt that where did I landed? Does this space belongs to me? Even after working in Delhi University or even in a capital for 20 years, 22 years, I felt that, there is a complete breakdown of human relations within these institutions. So suppose if some SC/ST students, they will be keep on struggling to uh, keep on updating their studies, because they have to keep on studying. They will not have any sufficient time to go and participate in some cultural activities or some other activities which are happening in the spaces where the assessment, again, the placement assessment is also being completely, based on that. And Catherine's, Newman's, and Thorat's, Jodka's, all their work is completely based on these kind of, social capital, how it nurtures, how you try to mix within the institutional setup. Then, yeah, of course, it's tough, but I'm just trying to, one more interesting thing which you try to explain is that how the lack of institutional support mechanism, like first, it's irrelevance of English bridging courses to particular practically prepare the students for academic work demand by IITs. Prepis, they are called as prepis. You are compelled to go for English course, remedial courses. Though you might be very good in English, but you are compelled to go. So they are called as prepis. Okay. And then, secondly, lack of language laboratories, lack of orientation program, the rules, and they doesn't know the rules. They will not be explained properly. So rules and regulations that about from one semester to other semester, summer coaching classes, slow tracking program, dysfunctional SC/ST cells. Even my study also proved it. So what I'm saying is that the professors and senior students who are supposed to be mentors, they promote a kind of discrimination. They perpetuate. It's a blatant way of doing things when nobody is there to, and you don't even fill the seats for PhD seats in IIT Delhi. When I was interacting with faculty, they can take 5 students or whatever the number, but they will say I don't want to take, and it is not compelled. So you have a preferential choice, whom to give, whom to not to give. Okay. Lastly, intellectual shortcomings and busy with fun. These are the things I found it very fascinating. If undeserved or general categories, if they get bad results, they say busy having fun. But if SC/ST students, they don't get good results, intellectually shortcoming, and they are not meritorious. They are like the image that speaks a lot. Well, then I will close this because there are a lot of things, but I will give my general comment. But you have this study has proved the statistical thing. Yeah. That is something very interesting. Otherwise, just mere even when I also presented empirical kind of qualitative kind of paper presented, people said that you are you need to prove it. So so therefore you have to prove with data, and this data really helps in finding some sort of solution. And see, new normal suicides has become new normal. Between 2005-24, 115 suicides in IITs. And who cares for it? On the day I was there delivering lecture, the last suicide of Delhi IIT happened. Nothing. I was just scrolling that what is new on IIT News so that I can start with that lecture. So the thing is, 4 hours before, this boy committed suicide recently. So I started with that. So suicides has become my new normal. And the entire, when Darshan Solanki thing happened, the entire burden went on to SC/ST cell. The director was not ready to come and speak to the media or press. So the SC/ST cell comes in, they say no, there is no caste discrimination, but ultimately at the end, it has been proved. Therefore, in fact, I filed additional information for the PIL that has been filed in Supreme Court on this particular case with his father. Yeah. Then two things, failure, dropouts. Yeah, yeah. But no, how do we think that 8 IIT directors coming in front of news and says that if you implement reservation, we are compromising on merit. So here your study completely where it is going on, that how the administration is becoming part and parcel of this entire process of SC, ST, OBCs, from marking failures, dropouts, to campus placements, and then continuously at the end, scale, job preferences scales, and this thing. Lastly, I have three some observations, questions to be asked. Yes, this is it really, it's an eye opening, because such studies are very important to find out where the problem is. Now, how do we make the institutions or even the state responsible? Because Professor Thorat, wherever he talks about these issues, he says that you need some kind of legal mechanism to, but some argue that already there is an act which can be utilized against them. How do we, whether we can, that is one question. Second thing, it's a very organized social conspiracy. In fact, when this by the caste elites, so depriving spaces to them, how it will have its impact on when privatization, because madam asked that public, private companies, public and private companies, thing. Now privatization has become much more. Previously reservations used to, at least minimal used to happen. So privatization and this thing, then as you said, at the end, the top ranking, less discrimination on scheduled castes in top disciplines. You said that, they may face very less discrimination. But what is their, generational upward mobility? Where do which family they come from? Because if you see the top disciplines and the the last disciplines, there is a generational gap where the students opt for which discipline also. So how do you see that? I feel that it's very minute. They may face, even after joining in Delhi University, I still face, a kind of, very subtle or sometimes open, kind of thing. You are a quota wala, so I don't care. I can face it, but I can, hit them back. But academically, but students, how do they? These are the few things. But altogether, this is a wonderful work, and I really thoroughly enjoyed. But yeah, this I am not able to now. After when I attended, your lecture, these entire tables, I was a bit confused. So now it is clear, for me. It's very interesting, data.
Thank you very much for your comments. We don't have too much time. Odile, maybe in 5 minutes, I know it will be a bit difficult to address all these questions, but if you can just pick and choose a bit so that we keep time for the Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Very quickly, no, about the 3 questions you asked me, I don't have any reply. How do we make the institutions, the state responsible? I didn't work on this aspect. I don't know. But it is sure that the SC/ST office, should be created at least in all IIT, and even the rules should be respected. It is not normal that in IIT Kanpur, out of 394 teachers, we have only 3 or 4 SC teachers. Just to make the rule be respected, I think it will be the beginning. It will be something to start with. General upward I don't have more data than that, so I can't speak about general upward mobility. And I would like maybe now to contact former students of IIT Kanpur from this SCST and look at what they are doing now. But it will be a few. It will be maybe 5 or 10. I don't have more contact. But yes, because don't forget that this SPO data, it is the first job. And we don't know how long they will stay in the job. We don't know if they will go after that, maybe to have a master in another, because most of them, they work for 3-4 hours a year, sorry, to get some money. And after that, they try to go abroad in order to get a master abroad. So it is just a first step of their career. So yeah, we have to. No, I wanted to just, they don't fill the seat. Yes, they fill the seat in a UG program because it is under control. So the seats were filled up in a UG program, but in a PG program, it is really freestyle. I mean, in the sense, yeah. We will have an interview today. Yes, out of 10 interviews, yes, there is 2 very excellent, but be sure we won't take it. Obviously, but no problem. The teacher told me, no, we won't take it. We won't take them. We won't admit them. Okay, it was really clear that it was discrimination. So this and we the data showed very clearly that the seats were not filled up in PG program at all. So because there is no control on that. And the last thing is the lack of support. It is a very difficult question because they were not very clear with that. I had a very good relation with a woman. She was a professor of physics. She was a leftist. She was a Marxist. And she was those one who settles remedial classes. But she also told me that creating remedial classes is also a way to assign a very negative identity to group. So it was really tough to know what to do.
On this note, we will conclude. Thank you very much, both you, Professor Sukumar and Professor Henri, for this wonderful discussion, and everyone online and here in the room. We will have our next seminar session on 3rd June, and we hope that many of you will be there too. Thank you.
Thank you.